Hi there, Rev. Jen Butler, and I'm on one of my first walk-in talks here in the woods where I come to think, reflect, and pray on the news of the week and my faith and what I should do about it. And as I walk today, it's quite icy out. I hope I don't slip and fall while I do this. That would be embarrassing. But I'm thinking about how, like, right now I have got to be one with nature. Because if I try to fight this ice and try to be my regular fast walking self, it's going to be a disaster. And so I'm going with the flow quite literally because there's some ice floes under my feet. That's why I keep looking down. And I've been reading this book called Braiding Sweetgrass. It's by a Native American scientist. And she writes about how a lot of the tribal ways of harvesting and living with their environment actually are not only morally and spiritually beneficial, but she can look into the science of them and realize that they actually work scientifically. And so this kind of respect for the environment that Native peoples have discovered actually is the right way to live together, one with the environment. She writes in particular about how in harvesting sweetgrass, there's a certain way that Native peoples do it where they ask the plant, you know, if it's okay to harvest them, they thank the plant. And the way they harvest actually creates, it's kind of symbiotic with the propagation of these plants. They do well when they're harvested in this particular way, and they do poorly when they're not harvested at all, and if they're harvested in a way that doesn't respect the plant. As a scientist, like at first that seemed contrary to science, and so she did an experiment and kind of showed how all of that fit together and was actually beneficial. And I was thinking about the way in the Bible, God tells us over and over again, remember, I am the God who led you out of Egypt, out of slavery. And so, or Jesus, when he said, you know, whatever you do to the least of these, you do that to me. That is an ethic of how we're supposed to live together. God created and called creation good. We are to live in relationship and partnership with the environment and with all people. They're not supposed to be hierarchies of domination or economic slavery of one kind and another. And there are no racial hierarchies. That's the way we're to live together. And that's what's good for all of us, because when we do that, there's an abundance. There's enough for everybody. Our environment is doing well. We're living in harmony with one another. And we don't run into the kind of social problems that we're seeing today. So I'm thinking about all of this in relation to what's happening in Texas right now. They, of course, have had this massive ice storm. They have a energy grid that is disconnected from the rest of the country because they're like, we can do this ourselves. We don't need anybody else. So the federal system can't help them the way it would help other states in allocating energy to address that crisis. That kind of arrogance has led to many deaths, to further economic and communal destruction. Meanwhile, Senator Ted Cruz is taking his family off to Cancun. He doesn't care about how his people are faring. And there's an economic ideology right now and a racial ideology that is taking over the Republican Party. And Ted Cruz escaping to Cancun in the middle of an ice storm that is killing people in his state is just emblematic of that. And so it is also an environmental catastrophe. This is about climate change. And so we're not taking care of our planet. We are not setting up systems that protect everybody in society. We're setting up systems instead that exploit some groups of people to benefit others. And so really, like our Bible is a handbook of liberation. My book, Who Stole My Bible, goes into that. I recommend this book as well, Braiding Sweetgrass. A beautiful book that talks scientifically about how science and Native American beliefs and ways of caring for the environment and supporting their people all fall in line together. We have a lot to learn from that way of thinking as well. Hope these thoughts are helpful as we go through the week. What we need to do, I think, is reflect on how to build community around where we are, how to have these conversations with people, how to work for policies and for a country that lives into this ethic. We really are up against an ideology that seeks to exploit other people, and it's not good for any of us. It's not good, no matter your social class, your race, your religious belief, it's not good for any of us. So let's work for that world. The Bible teaches us that even in the hardest of circumstances, people throughout history, our spiritual ancestors, have done that and prevailed. So let's take hope from them and carry on.